Hi, and welcome back to Lupini Builds. We continue where we left off regarding the assembly of our little Cessna aircraft. We have the fuselage, we have the tail, we have the wing section done, and I've recently just done the tail section, so it looks like that. I'll show it to you on there so you can see. Did it in the same way. This is the tail section of the aircraft here. So I simply laid the wires onto that and created the pattern exactly off that drawing so that it looks like and resembles the tail section. You'll see that I've done also here, I've built in the flaps at the back, the ailerons at the back already designed in, so that when we put this into the aircraft, it's all going to be ready to go. So this sits more or less in this position here. It looks like it goes into there, it slides in there like that, and it's going to be in the position somewhere there. Somewhere there like that. So you can see already our little aircraft is taking shape. All the pieces are coming together. That's the that section there. Here's the wing section on top. So taking shape. Okay, so for today I wanted to show you that when we come to doing the tail section, we're going to be cladding them in a way that hopefully will give it a bit of character and a bit of color. So there are two things we can use to do that. One is that we can either use a mesh that looks like this. This is a brass fabric mesh. I bought it online. It's a very fine mesh. In fact, it's used for in the pharmaceutical and chemical industry to filter out very fine grains. So this is the one material, and the other one is going to be a straightforward aluminum sheeting that looks like this. This is roughly, I think it's 1 millimeter or half a millimeter thick. Let me just check quickly. This is 0.35 of a millimeter thick. So this is about the thickness. That's quite easy to work with. You're able to cut it fairly easily with a pair of sharp scissors that look like this. These are the famous dressmaking scissors. They're very sharp. They're stainless steel. They do the job beautifully. So before we put any fabric covering onto this wing, so what I wanted to do was that take this and do something like that over it. But before we do that, we need to create some tiny ribs. Now the ribs I want to do are going to run across the wing on the tail plane from the leading edge, from the front edge to the back, just 3 or 4 straight lines. If ever you've looked at any of these aircraft close up, you'll notice that you can sometimes see the rib underneath below the aluminium skin. So this, I'm going to put this back into my little jig I prepared here to hold it in place for me so that I can work on it nicely. So there it is there. That's all sitting nice and tight. So what we do with this is that when we put the wire that's going to form the ribs on here, you should try to position the wire that it doesn't come over this wire. It should come into it. So not over, but into it. And if you let it go over, what happens is that when you trim it back, you get a very rough edge in the front here, which is not good for putting the copper sheeting over. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to position this that it goes, I'm going to start randomly there. I want to make sure that it's parallel and straight. I've got no references here, so I'm going by eye. But over here is where I'm going to make sure that it doesn't stick over or under this frame of the of this back tail plane, but it goes into it like that. So I'll weld it up. There we go. And because I'm going to leave it, always we cut it longer than what we needed, so we can always reference that piece and move it around. I'm going to put another one now. Also, I'm just going freehand because I've got the experience of getting the lines fairly well parallel. So I take a little bit more of my flux and lead, make sure this goes into that, make sure that they are parallel, and weld it in place. Like that. So I'm still going to do some adjustments to the length, to the lines. That's why I leave the back end free for now. I'm going to do one more over here. So try to keep even spaces, even joints, straight and parallel, welded in place like that. Okay, so that'll do. That's how that one goes. So I'm just going to just tweak this a little bit. You'll see that I've got to get them nice and straight. That's good enough. Later on I'm going to trim them at the back here to the exact size and glue and weld them inside there as well. Now the next step here, I want to do the same on this side. So let me grab another piece of my wire. That's why we keep all these little offcuts whenever we get them, so that you can use them all up. The brass is not cheap. A roll of that brass wire, it weighs 1 pound, and it costs in the region of $70. Once you've got it here, it's coming from the United States. So that doesn't help the exchange. So we try to save it. Don't waste it too much. There we go. There's the one. I'll do one more with this short piece here. Now try to keep it the same as you had it on the other side. So try to respect that sort of frequency, that it looks even and matched. If you like, you can always measure this out, or you can create a little drawing that you can work off to give you exact symmetry. I'm happy with that accuracy. I need another small piece of wire. There we go. So now the one reference I do have is that I've got a distance over here and one over here. I can see right now that there are small distortions with my little wing, but I'm going to fix that once I finish welding this. So that's the same as that side. I'm happy with that. Okay. Now, right. Now that we have this, let me just get right, that looks good. So now I'm going to trim these. Got a very fine pair of cutters. Some of us are familiar with what these are used for. They work very well. So cut it on the inside, cut it on the inside, and that way you're going to get it fitting nice and flush inside there. Right. So I need to just make sure that they go right inside, because you can see they are sitting a little bit on top of the wire. I don't want that. I want them to go inside. So I'm going to cut it a little bit more, like that. Right, these three are good. Message for Grant, maybe you can shorten this piece by simply skipping forward a little bit. It does take a bit of time to do this welding properly, so if you want to, that'll just take out a couple of minutes that I've wasted doing this, but there we go. Okay, so coming back, there's my tailplane that looks something like that. So you must agree it looks a lot better than the previous one. So now I'm going to start with this this covering here, and to put it in here, it's a little bit complex. You've got to have a little bit of patience to get it right. So what we need to do is that we need to tack it in place, and then we can pull it around to where we want it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little bit, tiny little drop of lead solder, and this little mesh solders beautifully if you're careful. So we're going to solder that mesh onto there. Like that, and then, oops, that didn't take. Okay, like that, and then go straight across to the other side. Do the same here. Okay. Okay. Now, you can see that that is taken quite well in the two places, one here and one there. So now I've got that nice and tight. I'm going to tack it in between so it doesn't move around too much. I don't want to give it too many tack marks, but whenever you do these tacking with these type of things, try to keep them symmetrical. So keep it, what you're doing to one side, do to the other. If you keep that symmetry going, then it makes your modeler look a lot more sort of professionally prepared. Okay, now that we have that, I'm now going to tack it to the front. But before I do that, you see what I'm going to do now. In order to keep it tight, I'm going to bend it over there. I'm going to bend it over there. And I'm going to give it another tack on this corner first. This one here. So I'm going to tack it outside of that one over there so that you can cut that little niche out afterwards. And the little paring scissors I've got does that beautifully. Right, so that's been tacked there. Now we're going to come forward here. You'll notice that because there's a crank in here, if I fold this side and that side, the material is going to crease. So what we do is that we cut. Where are my scissors? Here they are. I'm going to cut on the center line all the way down to there. Stop a millimeter or so short, like that. Now I'm going to pull this side into that. Crease it round nicely. Make sure it's pulled nice, and let's see how that edge is looking. Right, then we put a little bit of flux there and flux there. Once again, try to stay symmetrical wherever you're putting your lead. And here too, keep the lead on the underside so that you don't see too much of it on your finished model. And that way, the owner of this model is going to be intrigued as to how did you put that mesh on there. So don't work too much so you see it from the top. Work from the underside, and that way you're going to be able to hide it. So then now here, we're going to pull this one around first, like we did on the other side. I'm going to tack it over here. This is very much like doing upholstery in a lot more of a sophisticated way. Once again to the underside, okay, like that. Now I'm going to tack it back that way. See how that's coming? Okay. So I'm going to do one there and one there. And when you solder on this, the mesh is very thin. It gets hot very quickly. You want to try and keep the heat going into the bar below. Once you see it creeping along, the lead creeps along. As soon as the temperature is right, then you know that it's going to stick. Right. Now that that's in place, I'm able to cut off the excess so I can do a bit of trimming. So this here, I'm going to just cut this off like this. Okay. These pieces, you never throw them away. You'll be surprised how you'll come back and use these again and again. Okay, so now we've got this. Now it's a matter of trimming this up neatly, tidily, and get it all cleaned up. Give me a second or two. I'll do that for you offline, and then we can join again. See you in a few minutes. Hi, back with Lupini Bulls. So, what we did last time was I told you how I was going to prepare the back tail plane. I've now completed that. You can see the detail that I've put into it. So I've covered part of it with mesh. I gave the back ailerons a little bit of a detail in aluminium. I've given it a rivet line. You can see those rivet lines there. They come out quite nice using a tool that looks something like this. This one here I bought at a haberdashery. So you simply take this, you put it on a piece of aluminum like this, and by running it across with a bit of weight, it creates a line for you that gives you what we call a rivet line. So you can see the rivets come out there quite nicely, nice and shiny, and you can do them like that. So I gave that back tail plane a bit of a rivet line. I've covered portion of it in the brass fabric, tucked it over. The aluminium is ingeniously kept in place with some very thin wire over the wire and under so that it stays in place. And this little tail plane goes in here like that. And once in place, I'll just get it in there. It looks something like that. So you can see how nice that looks. So the little tail plane comes in there like that. So we're getting there. Slowly it's taking shape. And now this piece here, because it's complete, I can leave it one side, and I'll put this in later on when we start to do all the assembly. So this piece here, I'll just keep it aside. Next, what we're going to do next is do the same to this wing like I did to the tail plane. So on this one, we're going to create a series of ribs that go across, all the way across this wing over here. And on the other side, I'll show you how to make those all nice and symmetrical. I've learnt little tricks along the way how that is done, and then that'll give this wing some detail, so when we connect it to the plane, it's going to give it a nice finish. We're not far from complete here, by the way. Once we've got the tail plane in and the wing in like this, we're starting to look like it's getting complete. I've got to do the door profiles, the wing struts, a few other small things to make it look neat. And to give it some extra detail, I'm going to put a covering on the tail. So the tail I might cover in aluminum, or I might do it in aluminum all the way down that fillet line. So put a nice very thin piece in there. I'll show you what I mean. So we cut out a template in paper, and then we stick the paper to a piece of aluminum, and we cut it out so it comes all nice and neat. So I'll show you how to do that. The basic wire work is almost done. I'm going to be working on the nose profile later. We've got to take the nose and trim it back and give it that beautiful curve that this nose of this aircraft, a very sweet nose, comes down, and then we'll do the propeller in aluminum. So let's look forward to the next one. We'll get together on the next episode. We will take our little project to the next level. I think it's looking good. Pieces are coming together nicely, and it's a bit of a small scale, as I said before, but I think when you see the completed article, it'll look very good. Chat to you soon. Take care.